the sum, add it up, and come to the reality, to the sum that we die with Christ, and now we have the same life, right? We're alive in God in Christ Jesus. Therefore, do not let sin reign in your mortal body, so that you obey its desires. Do not offer any part of yourself to sin as an instrument of wickedness, but rather offer yourselves to God as those who have been brought from death to life. And offer every part of yourself to him as an instrument of righteousness. So I just wanted to read this and point out, so what's happened is, now as believers, we have an option to yield to sin. He's going to go on from there and he's going to say, look, if you yield to sin as a believer, you are making yourself a slave to it. That's important. We are voluntarily making ourselves a slave to it. So then I want to go here and I want to talk about this, kind of back to a point we made. Why is sin so enticing and God can seem so boring? Why would that be a thing in my life? Why would I have that? Well, John, in 1 John, he tells us something that's just fantastic. It can really help us. In 1 John chapter 2, now when John writes to the Christians, right around 95 AD, he's writing to them, and he's writing for fellowship. He even says it. It's literally right in the first chapter. He says, verse 3, we proclaim to you what we have seen and heard, so that you also may enjoy fellowship with us, and our fellowship is with the Father and with his Son, Jesus Christ. We write this to make our joy, our being all believers, complete. So John says why he's writing the letter. He's writing the letter so that we can understand if we're experiencing fellowship with God or if we're not. And he has some very pointed ideas about it, right? He has some very if-then type of statements. But they're not if-then type of statements about, are you saved? They're if-then type of statements about, do you have fellowship with God? And one of them is this, verse 3. He says, chapter 2, verse 3, we know that we have come to know him if we keep his commands. Whoever says, I know him, but does not do what he commands, is a liar, and the truth is not in that person. So let's stop there. This is a very kind of a downer of a statement. This is kind of looking at it from a very negative way. But it's fantastic, because you got to love if-then statements, right? You got to love statements that tell you exactly where you're at. And so what he says is this. He says, if a person says, and the word know there, forgive me for the repetitive explanation. Remember, there's two major words. One is oida and one is gnosko. So oida would be like if I said, I know there's a Pacific Ocean. And what I'm saying is, I have perceived as a fact there is a Pacific Ocean, right, in Greek. If I use gnosko, it's the experiential knowledge. So if I say, I gnosko the Pacific Ocean, what I'm saying is, I've been to it, I've been in it, I've fished it, I've studied it, I know it's there, I have experienced the Pacific Ocean. So what he's saying here, what John is saying here, he says if a person says that they gnosko, if a person says that they know God experientially, that they have relationship with him, they're interacting with him, Garden of Eden life, all right? Can we just kind of label it that way? It's a great picture. He says if a person says that they know God, he says, well, we'll read it again. He says, if he says that, where'd it go? Oh, whoever says, I know him, but does not do what he commands is a liar. And the truth is not in that person. Now, it's important. The word is there is present active. So he's not saying a person that doesn't do what he commands is not saved. That's not the application here, right? Because then all of us are unsaved. I mean, is there anyone going to be here that raise their hand to say, I always do what God tells me to do? Right? No, none of us are going to do that, right? In a sane mind. But it's the idea here with the is present active is this. The person who says, I know God, but is not obeying him, is not doing what he commands, is that in that moment, the truth is not influencing him. It's not in him. So the point is this. If I say that I know God, but I don't obey him, the issue is I don't actually know him. And this can be a little bit insulting, right? Because a lot of times when you read something like this, if I don't obey his commands, I don't know him, our response is, I need to do his commands. That's true, right? I do need to do his commands. But what the bigger truth is here, to know why I don't do his commands. I don't do his commands because I don't know him. It'd be like if you knew someone who was amazing, just an amazing person, right? Like if I invited you over to my house, I was like, I want you to meet Tam, my wife. She has this spiritual gifting of like making tea and cookies, and you just pour your soul out to her, and then everything's all better. That's kind of her deal, right? She's an introvert, so she's like, ooh, church is scary, but when it comes down to like the individual thing, like that is her jam. It's her gifting, right? So I was like, hey, you're having a bum day. If you're a woman, I'm not inviting dudes over to meet my wife, but as a woman, be like, hey, you having a, why don't you just come hang out with Tam? And you were like, yeah, I don't know. I've never really met her. I don't know her. I don't want, I don't think I want to go over there. But I was like, but no. And I convinced you to show up. And you go, whoa, that was such a blessing to drink that tea and just have her listen to me and hear me out. Things would change, wouldn't they? And all of a sudden the next time I was like, hey, you're down? Why don't you have tea with my wife? You'd be like, I will do that. Because it's a blessing. I got to know her. And that's kind of a weak analogy, right? But that's the truth of our relationship with God. See, what happens is, for many of us, we got saved and we either jumped into the ministry to pay God back or for whatever reason, and we started living these hardcore lives for Jesus with no knowledge or understanding of this idea of fellowship, or we just bobbed around in life with nothing and we just ended up kind of shacking up with whoever because we're still trying to find fulfillment because we're not a disciple. Whichever path we went on, if we were on one of those paths, that's what happens. And so John just comes along and he shares this awesome truth. If you find that you don't want to follow what God's commanding you to do, and think about what he's commanding you to do, and not the stuff, okay, not the stuff, but just being with him. Think of the letter he wrote to Ephesus, right? We covered it in chapter 1. In Revelation 1, where he says, hey, you left your first love. Come back and do the first works. Right? He says, he's in Ephesus, these same people, he told them, you're doing all this stuff. You guys have good Bible teachers. You guys have good doctrine. You resist bad Bible teachers and you kick them out. You're working to the point of exhaustion, the word toil there. You're doing all the stuff, he says. Jesus says to them, to Ephesus. And he says, but we don't have a love relationship anymore, so I'm actually going to stop meeting with you. He says, I'm going to take away the testimony from your church. I'm not going to meet with you guys anymore if you don't come back to me and love me instead. So when we look at what he commands, or even if you want to go Old Testament and you look at what is it that God requires of you, but to walk humbly with your God, right? I mean, you look at this. I'm outlining right now, I'm going back in May to teach at that school again. And so I've been doing my own outline of Jeremiah. And man, just over and over and over again, that's the condemnation. Your heart is not with me. Your heart is not with me. Your heart is not with me. So I hope this isn't too muddled. I hope the picture is clear. That what I'm wanting to show you and wanting to live in myself is that you are still God's workmanship. He is still working in you. He is still creating you, if you will. He's still changing your heart. He's still moving. He's still working. He's still calling. It's not you that has to do all the stuff. It's you that has to know him and yield to him. See, the primary step for the person who says God is boring, I don't know why my folks do it. I don't know why the rest of the church does it. I don't know why the youth group does it. I don't know why whatever. The music is boring. The Bible teaching is boring. And it's crazy long at this church. All these things. The person who says that, you don't know him. I mean, it might be crazy long, boring Bible teaching. That I can't attest to. But you don't know him. And that's not me being a jerk. It's because, and it's the invitation, right? He doesn't say you don't know him and so to hell with you. No, he goes on, he's like, so let's get to know him. Let's be honest about where we're at in our lives. And you can go to God and say, I think there's something going on here. I don't think I know you for who you are. I don't think you're powerful. I don't treat you like I do. I don't think what you have is fulfilling and joyful. I think the NFL is more joyful. I don't know what do women, I don't know, Chloe watches like movie stuff. I don't know. Whatever women are into. That's enjoyable. My wife and I watch the same shows, so I can't really, we kind of have the same taste. And she's not like a big knitter or anything like that. Not that men can't knit. There are plenty of good crocheters out there, I'm sure. But I'm just saying, like, we think like, oh, this other thing will be better. Oh, this thing some things even that God forbids, it'll be better. That self-medicating will be better. Like, honestly, where are we at as a person when we really come to the conclusion that chemical self-medication is a better life? And that's not an insult, because we do it with Netflix, we do it with ice cream, we do it with all sorts of... When I say substances, I'm not talking about just weed. I'm talking about the stuff that we use to try to be fulfilled and to deal with life. And then we try to justify why it's a good thing. It's not. And so I need to come to the recognition that if I'm finding God laborious or boring or disinteresting, the problem isn't with him. It's not that he got boring over the millennia, right? The problem is I don't know him. When the children of Israel, it's interesting because when the children of Israel came out of Egypt, it was super easy, right? We talked about this. Super easy. It's like there's like a 600,000 person army. They all want to kill us. We have no weapons. We have a bunch of cows and riches because we ripped them off, right? And we're all clumped up in a big clump right now. And just the fact there's a pillar of fire between us is the only thing that's keeping us alive. And then God says to Moses, hey, man, lift up your staff. And so Moses is like, boop, right? And then all of a sudden, the Red Sea parts, the water goes up, and it's dry land. Not a super difficult decision, right? Get wrecked by Pharaoh or walk. And it's kind of the same with salvation when we're honest. If we're willing to be honest. My sin is bearing down, and the judgment and the justness of God is bearing down. And if I refuse it, I will be crushed in this life and the next, and rightfully so. But a way has been opened, an easy path. Not for Jesus it wasn't easy, but it's easy for me to receive a free gift of salvation through the blood of Jesus. And so we walk through it. And it was an incredible gift.